Hi, I'm Rajiv, and today I'm here at the Metropolitan Museum of Art to visit the Costume Institute and talk about tweed, my favorite cloth. Today I'm here with Marci Morimoto, Associate Collections Manager here at the Met, the Costume Institute, and we are talking about tweed. So, Marci, I looked through your collection and you had examples of, are they cycling suits, women's cycling suits?
We do. We have several of them, and you selected one of them. And it's laid out here on the table today. So this is a cycling suit. It actually has a patent label on the inside. And I think it says like the Star Bicycling Suit. The Star Bicycling Suit, trademark, patented July 21st, 1896.
Wow, so this was like an off the rack. And this was something that a woman would have worn while she was riding a bicycle?
So you've got options here. So it's actually a bifurcated garment here, meaning it's got legs. It's separated into two pieces. And we've got this front here, it buttons up. And so from the front right now, it looks like a skirt.
Yep.
But if you unbutton this whole panel, flip it over and rebutton it on that side, you now have culottes.
Oh, wow. So there's trousers underneath the skirt.
Yeah, and from the back, it would also look like trousers. You could sort of see how these are two legs right here.
I'm wearing right now perhaps one of my most prized pieces of clothing. This is a tweed suit that was woven for me by my very good friend Deborah. And she actually sourced the wool locally in Ontario. She went to the farm, she picked out 2 different shades of brown sheep. She had them shorn, she took the fleeces to a local mill, she had them actually spin the fibers into the right size thread, and then she hand wove this tweed, which was later made into a suit. This was like a suit that took years to make, and
that is a fantastic, complete maker story there. You
Completely.
know exactly where your clothes came from all levels.
What I love about being here right now is that I wear this suit very often when I'm riding my bike. And looking at this feels like a little bit of time travel, that I ride my bike around New York City wearing this tweed, and here is this example from the 1890s, a tweed bicycle suit.
In the era where bicycling was definitely something that more and more women were picking up, and it was sort of like a symbol of freedom when you could just ride somewhere and take yourself somewhere else.
One of the things that I love about looking at really old pieces of clothing is seeing the outside, but then opening it up and seeing the inside. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you, can we look at the inside?
We can look on the inside. This one, so this has a
Please?
very interesting lining. It's in bad shape.
Okay.
But it does have a really fantastic print.
And it's silk, right?
Yes. You can see there's some wear on it. There's some splitting, but it is a fantastic little brocade silk.
Look at the armholes. The lining is hand stitched. So when you do this, whenever this happens, whether it's in a museum or whether it's in a vintage shop where I pull something off a rack that's of this era and I open up the inside, I always get kind of goosebumps because I feel like we're looking very close to a person. Does that make sense? This was the part that touched their body.
That touched their bodies.
And this was not really meant to be seen by anyone other than the wearer.
Which is why when you have when you bump into something that has a really interesting lining, it pops.
So here's one thing that I would love to share with people. When you're going out and having anything custom made, I think it's becoming actually surprisingly more common now for men to go out and at least have one suit that's tailor-made, or the term that's used now is bespoke or made to measure. You can pick your lining, and very often people pick a lining that is just suggested to them by the tailor, and that lining is synthetic. It's a synthetic lining, so they're picking a beautiful pure wool outer for their clothing, and then they're picking something that's synthetic for the inside. And I always find that a synthetic lining makes me sweat. Like it traps the heat and the moisture on the inside.
It's lining in plastic.
That's what I say. So I'm glad to hear that from you. I always look at synthetic linings as plastic linings. And I think it's such a shame that people don't even realize that you're taking a beautiful, breathable, natural fiber, and then you're putting plastic on the inside. So what I do when I have, this was a custom-made suit, I took Deborah's cloth to the tailor, and then I went out and found silk, and I found pure silk. And I took that along with the tweed and I said, please line the suit with silk. Because historically, it was very common to have silk linings. And what that does is it creates a garment that is completely breathable. Like from the inside to the outside, it's breathing, it's a natural fiber. And this is something that I think people should know. They should think about what their garments are lined with, because that is what helps you feel comfortable in your clothing.
The other thing I was going to show you, the other aspect of this very practical suit, are the gaiters that go with it.
Gaiters.
So
these covered the boots.
Or if they were short boots, they like extended the coverage up your leg. So this helps with both like splattering as you bicycle along. You know, it keeps your stockings clean. If you don't have boots that go all the way up to your knees, this provides a modicum of coverage. So this is just looks like it's lined in maybe a linen. It's made out of the same wool.
Could we look at the inside a little bit, please? Wow, look at this. Like I love seeing this hand stitching.
That's just
for the buckle.
Yeah,
wow.
Unfortunately the leather is not aging quite well, but you've got a buckle for the top, and then there would have been a leather strap that goes underneath the foot to keep it all in place, and then just buttons up the side. And so the full effect would be kind of like a long boot.
This is so wonderful to see, and I think that if I could influence people to go out there in the world and spend their money on at least one handmade thing that they're going to wear for many, many years, if you're going to take the time and the effort to do that, don't forget about the lining. Take the time to go out and source a beautiful, natural fibered lining. Spend the money on it. Sometimes the lining is more expensive than the tweed in my case. But I see it as a working garment. Like I wear these suits regularly. I ride my bike all over the city in these suits, and they get a lot of wear and tear. So I really do see it as a worthwhile investment. Coming here and seeing something like this, seeing this finely made piece of clothing and knowing that it was also for use on a bicycle, that is very, very special. So thank you. Thank you so much for showing us this today.
It's always great to show objects to somebody who appreciates them from all angles.
You also have something else that I would love to look at, a sample book of cloth swatches, right?
Yes, we have a lovely swatch book here. This is courtesy of our department's library. We brought this over. So this is the Royal Tailors, Chicago, New York, the Spring Weights season from 1920.
What? Look at these end papers.
So I think if we keep going, we will find some.
Oh, there we go. Here's a page of tweeds. Wow. This is a work of art. Now, where is this housed? It's housed in a library?
This is part of our library. Some of the departments within the museum have their own individual libraries, and we do. We have the Irene Lewison Costume Library, and so people can make appointments to come.
The public can make appointments to come and visit your library?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
We also have a lot of digital resources online, so we do have a fair amount of fashion plates that are digitized that are available to the public online.
Coming here and looking at something like this, it just fills my head with ideas for how I could take this information and go out there and then apply it to something that I might make myself or have custom made. Something like the silk lining in my suits comes from just an interest in how things were lined 100 years ago and looking at old examples and then pulling from that, saying to myself, well, there's no reason why I can't do that today. One thing I want to ask you, Marci, while I while I'm here with you is about undergarments. Do undergarments survive? Because they were worn so close to the body and because they were really the workhorses of attire, I'm assuming that not a lot of examples of underwear survive, but am I wrong?
What survives tends to be the fancier stuff. The
Okay.
stuff that isn't as hard wearing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like it wasn't your workhorse chemise that survives. We do have some, like, you know, plain, because it's sort of ubiquitous, you had a lot exist, so
Yeah.
there was a certain amount that would survive. So we do have some practical chemises from the 19th century, but they're not that many. More of the chemises and drawers and things like that we do have tend to be the really ornate ones.
Okay, that
The
people
ones
didn't wear very often.
Or that they just didn't wear into the ground, or didn't wear until like they turned the fabric into rags or something else, you know,
Okay.
where you just keep on like utilizing the fabric over and over again. But
Amazing.
the piece that had all like the really nice lace and all the frills, like that survived.
Wow. The other thing that I would have wondered about, and I've read little bits and pieces, that most underwear was white or beige, like it wasn't colored. And is that true? That the majority of undergarments from the 19th and 18th centuries were white? Because I'm assuming that it was a practical thing, right? You took those undergarments and you could boil them and really clean them, and that's why they were just undyed cloth. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can boil it, you can wash it hard, and you can sun bleach it.
Right. Because that's how they
and-
dried most things,
Yeah,
right?
and there's no sense in utilizing a cloth that has a lot
Color.
of color, especially for something that's going to be washed so often. Now, you know, when you talk undergarments, there's the garments that are directly against your skin, so like chemises, underwear, or even like men's shirts, the thing that's right against your skin. But then there's the next layer, like so corsets. Corsets could be
Colored.
because you're not washing them in
Right.
the same way.
So I think this is the thing that might fascinate people, that underwear, the real stuff that was touching your skin was commonly white, because I've adopted that practice as well. All my socks, this is maybe too much information, all my underwear, all my like t-shirts, they're white. And it's because it's so practical. So people, when I say that to my friends, they're like, why do you have all that white stuff? Like, doesn't it get dirty? And yes, it gets dirty like the colored stuff, but you can put it on the hottest setting in the washing machine and really get it clean.
It was intended to be dirty.
Yeah.
Like it was expected to get soiled. And so, yeah.
To protect, and
To
it
protect
protected the outer
outer
garments.
garment.
So I never, ever, ever wash or dry clean these suits, because I'm wearing 3 layers under this.
Welcome to the end of the 19th century.
What? I'm overwhelmed. So it feels like they're costumes, but they're not. This is a room full of actual people's actual clothing. If I can say this, look at what it would have looked like to be out in public in New York City in 1890. Like, look what people wore, and look what people wear now. Look.
There are some incredibly fashionable people
I
on
know,
the
but
streets
I'm just
these
saying,
days.
like, on a
There
whole,
was a formality.
On a whole, it's black. It's like black plastic jackets, basically, all like ubiquitously everywhere. And to just glance around at the, I'm overwhelmed. Like, it's really inspiring. With my like historic interpreting, when I put on those clothes, I felt like a different person. The armholes were often cut so much higher that you...
But it gives you more mobility if it's fit properly.
Exactly. I was going to say that. That's
properly.
another thing that people don't know about armholes. Like guys going to custom tailors and having suits made,
And then you can
ask for a very high armhole, as high an armhole as possible. Because, so this suit was custom made, and I asked them to cut the armhole as high as possible. So people would think, you cut the armhole high and wait, it feels uncomfortable because it's right in my armpit. But no, if the armhole is cut lower, like just imagine it's over here. When I'm lifting up the side of when I'm lifting up my hand, it's going to pull the, like if the armhole's over here, it's pulling up the jacket already before I've even, so now I'm reaching for something, like I'm reaching for the pole on the subway, and if my armhole's down here, look at how far up my jacket is. Whereas if your armhole is cut really high, look, I can raise my arm all the way over here without the jacket moving that much. It affords greater ease when the armholes are cut high. And that is something that we see in historic clothing, very high cut armholes. It's also so much more flattering to the body, regardless of the body shape, I think. That these beautiful...
It keeps everything flat.
Exactly.
In place. It doesn't displace the garment as much when it's cut properly.
Yeah.
And stretch fabrics just sort of like give people like the lazy out on that.
Yeah. We're like old timers. We believe in the old ways. Marci, this has been a really fascinating experience, and I can't tell you how many things are going on in my brain right now. So for that, I thank you, and I just am so grateful. So thank you for having us today.
It's lovely to share things with people who are excited about them as we are. So
museums
thank you.
You're very welcome. I think that a museum is a great place to come and just look at the art, but then there's also this aspect of being in a museum where you can learn so much, and it's fascinating to see what's behind the scenes, like how much stuff is back here that's not on display.
And this is where the vast majority of the work happens. You know, the public usually just sees the finesse displays and the exhibitions when it comes to the end, but there's all this work we do in storage to care for the objects, to build mounts. The conservation team does incredible treatments. It's just, it's a lot of work to care for, and responsibility to care for a collection.
I can imagine. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having us today.
You're very welcome.